You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AfterBuzz TV's Game of Thrones After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's Game of Thrones After Show.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Game of Thrones After Show, The Laws of Gods and Men. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this Mother's Day episode. Happy Mother's Day to Cersei Lannister, the best gift you could possibly get. But with us today, the tap dance expert of the crew, of the panel, Kristen Snyder.
1983, look it up.
One of the best I know. Actually, the only tap dance expert I know. But Kyle Maddock.
Hey guys, glad to be back.
And guys, the lovely Chiklis.
Hello everyone, happy to be back.
Hey guys, I'm Dave Klein. Thank you so much for joining us this week. And we should jump right into the episode because a lot happened, more so in the second half. As on the chat, we have people saying, basically the first half was people died and Theon got a bath. But let's go ahead and talk about that first half. And the trial, which was kind of the big event, we'll save for the end as we'll kind of go in order of the show. But let's go ahead and start off with Stannis and Davos, who are sailing to Braavos. And you can see right there one of the major landmarks of Braavos, which is that big statue that they have to sail underneath.
The Titan of Braavos, I believe. I don't think they called it that in the show, but that's what it is. It's the Titan of Braavos. Once again, good special effects. We had the Eyrie last week, and now we got this Titan. The city looked amazing. I think it was a cool introduction.
It did. It looks like the money comes from there.
Yeah, and with that perfect transition into the bank.
The Iron Bank.
Yes, they've been talking about it for weeks, and finally we get our introduction to three men in chairs. So that's the Iron Bank, I guess. It's these
It's
guys.
just a bunch of iron chairs.
Yeah, well, I guess that's how
But
it
we
is
did
in
get to
real
meet
life.
the members too, and that it's a council. It's not just one person in charge, but it's a full council who's in charge of the Iron Bank as they're trying to make their case. And Davos really the one who's standing up for the case and kind of pointing out, well, you got to think about the future to the Iron Bank for a good investment as opposed to just the here and now.
You can see that this is a good example of how Stannis, there's so much he feels like he shouldn't have to do because he's the rightful king. Well, even when they asked him to sit, it takes him like 5 minutes to even go, okay, I guess I can sit in front of these
And then he
men.
had a presenter.
Yeah, and then he had a presenter, and then when he lost his case, he was like, all right, well, I'm out of here. And it was Davos that stepped up.
Yeah.
Everything's just, he's like, I'm not going to sit here, and I'm not going to grovel, I'm not going to beg. He's like, that's not me. That's not what I'm going to do.
Yeah, well, on the other kind of flip side of that, you were talking about entitlement last week. Let's
Yep.
talk about entitlement with him and the fact that he had to have someone else pretty much make his case. How is he going to get anywhere if he literally needs someone else to not only fight his battles on the battlefield, but just in proving that he's a worthy king?
Yeah, that's a great point. He said nothing, and just the look on his face was like his credit card got declined. He's like, let's get out of here.
He didn't even reach in for another one, though, or say, like, can I pay you in cash, or can I do write an
No.
IOU? He's like, well,
He said
this ain't
nothing.
working. I'm just going to leave.
I mean, that was a long trip, too, to just be like, well, I'm not even going to try. I'm done.
Yeah, it was
It was like he was in a trial as well.
early trial.
Oh,
It's-
parallels.
I'm still curious how the Iron Bank enforces their
Apparently,
laws.
you just need a garden. Because they were like, do you have wheat to feed your men?
Oh,
Do you have
yeah.
vegetables? No. Okay. No.
Yeah, I'm curious, too, because we do keep on hearing, like, don't piss them off, but I'm curious, like, what they actually do
Yeah,
if you
'cause
piss them off.
We haven't seen an example of how they enforce that. Do they hire sellsword companies and just send them after somebody, or what do they do? Or...
The Golden Company, that's why they're called that.
Yeah.
That's not really why they're called that.
No.
No, it's because the Iron Bank has a lot of gold. So let's go ahead and move forth to that. We find out through Davos and Salvador Sand talking that apparently this speech convinced them. As Salvador Sand gets a nice big paycheck as he's in that bathhouse.
Without his wife.
Without his wife. Is the wife ever really there, though, in any of these circumstances?
Well, when it comes to a certain sand snake, yes.
Oh.
Yes, the wife is there.
Yeah, it's true. But we've learned from a previous episode that Salladhor Saan has like a new wife every week, I think. And earlier one we had Davos talking about how he went to about 15 of Salladhor's weddings. Or something
That's
like that.
funny.
That's all right.
But you can see Salladhor's a little hesitant about this because the last time I believe he was under when he was with Stannis was the Battle of the Blackwater, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
and
I
that
think you're
didn't
right.
exactly go very well for the ships, and so I think Salladhor got out of there with his life, and now he's still in tow with Stannis. I mean, did he agree to this, or did Davos just come to him like, here's some money, you're mine again, like?
It seemed like he was hesitant until he saw the gold, so I guess he doesn't want to be a poor pirate, so he knows the way to his heart.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, Lord Bond on the chat saying Stannis just isn't really a people person, so that's a lot of it here as we're seeing. But
How are
yeah.
you going to be king?
Exactly.
Yeah, he feels like that's all he has to say. He's like, I'm the rightful king.
come on, this is because he's all about justice.
He doesn't have to give
yeah.
any other argument. He doesn't have to say anything else. That's all he feels like he has to say.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and transition over to Marine. Basically, and the reason I'm doing this is because Dizana asking on the chat if my opinion of the Mother of Dragons changed because it's Mother's Day. No.
And also, really, even after comparing that kind of entitlement, you cannot say that Stannis is not more entitled than Dany.
I'm not saying, but I never said I liked Stannis.
Okay, that's fair.
The only reason that the only reason that in the previous episode before you were here last week, I said I didn't like Daenerys is more so because people love her so much. I just have a counter opinion of her, and that's why I brought it up.
Okay.
But no, yeah, I mean Stannis isn't my favorite character either. Just anyone who acts entitled, I tend not to like, I suppose. But
He's such
Fair.
a likable guy.
yeah, it's totally. Well, at least he's just, I suppose, and like his own sense of justice. But anyways, let's go ahead
I
and
just
talk
don't
about.
like that he doesn't seem to hold firm to his own opinion. It's like he's easily swayed, and I don't think that's a good thing as a ruler, but continue.
Yeah.
Who's easily swayed?
Stannis.
He is?
It seems that way, like by Melisandre and then by Davos. It's like he can't have his own voice.
Okay.
And speaking of that, something to point out too is that when we saw the sails on the sailing, you can very clearly see his new emblem, his new sigil, which we also saw during the Blackwater, but the heart and the stag inside the heart.
Yes.
So I thought that was a nice detail. But let's go ahead and move over to Essos and Marine, where we've got where we have Daenerys doing her own form of justice. She's dishing out justice as well as she has to do her queenly duties. And this is really what a lot of you would do as a king or a queen is meeting with the common people who have complaints or questions or things like that and dishing out and talking to them. And we also saw this previously with with the Starks when we saw Bran needing to learn how to do this exact same thing in season 1, I believe.
Yep.
So
And I think we saw it once with Joffrey as well, and Joffrey's
Yeah,
was
Joffrey just doesn't
dishing
care.
out, like he's like, I hate you. All right, kill him.
Yeah.
He's like, I guess that's an easy way to do it.
Yeah.
That's an easy way to get through 212 people.
yeah,
I was about to
212.
say.
Yeah.
Basically, it seemed like she was just fixing all the problems she's created unknowingly. Like with her dragons, she has to now pay for what they're destroying, which I don't think is going to stop at goats. And she's also now realizing that all the men she had crucified, like the children, not all of them stood for what was happening for the slave children. They actually fought against it. So I think she's learning a lot as trying to be queen, which will obviously change what she's going to do moving forward.
Right. I mean, up until now, everything in her plotline has been, and I'll give you this, has been very kind of black and white when it comes to justice in her own way. I mean, she's the queen of the people, and she's fighting forward, and she's going to free all of the slaves, and now this is kind of the time where she is sitting down and realizing that things are a lot more shades of gray in this area, and if she is going to rule, she's going to have, and she wants to do it properly, and give her that, at least she wants to do it properly, it's going to be a little difficult, because how do you rule a kingdom? It's not just as easy as, oh, you have to be just all the time. What's justice when you have, children being nailed to crosses and then you try to give them justice and you realize that there's no way to do that. It's very complex. It's not easy. There's a reason that people come and go off of the throne all the time, not only in the world of Westeros, but in actuality. So it's just kind of her discovering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a huge.
She's been like very one-sided up until this point, and I feel like
Yeah.
as an audience, we've only been getting that one side, which perhaps is why Dave doesn't necessarily love her. But yeah, we're just getting how she sees things. We're not getting the people's explanation for why the things are happening in these cities or appear certain ways.
So Lord Bond on the chat saying, Danny got a taste of what ruling is in this episode. It's not all dragons and rainbows. Decisions have consequences. but go ahead.
Well, I was about to say something about puppy dogs and rainbows.
Oh.
So I got into it, but
Lord
Stole your
Bond stole
joke.
it. It wasn't
damn
me,
you,
it was
Lord
the
Bond!
chat.
Damn
It was
you!
the chat.
No, but it's true. It's just such a wake-up call, and we have been seeing the one side. It's like she's been trying to free slaves, and I think we can all agree we don't like slavery. And so we're all like, yeah, Danny, except for Dave. And and then all of a sudden she gets it, and she's like, you know what? I'm going to stay here. I'm going to figure this out. And she finds out that it's so much more complicated than just freeing slaves. When you try to change the infrastructure of anything, and when an entire city, an entire way of life, and when you shake that foundation, there's going to be a lot of issues that you have to deal with.
Well, it is interesting to see where things are going to go too, because we've got the dragons here that are causing issues with the goats, and as you said, that might not stop there. I mean, who knows where that's going to go to as they only get bigger, and like that was just one day of a meal, as far as we know. And then Hasdar bringing up that point about his father being crucified when he actually spoke against crucifying the children, and Dany kind of seemed like she didn't want to hear it because it's kind of a hard pill to swallow, but it seemed like she just didn't want to accept that maybe she did something wrong, I suppose. And I'm not saying that's a very human thing. I'm not saying that's necessarily against her. It's a very human thing not to want to feel that way, but kind of realizing why maybe harsh justice isn't always the right way to go.
Yeah, she had this sort of blanket justice, and finding out that it doesn't, one answer doesn't exactly apply to everybody you're raining that punishment down on is really kind of opened her eyes.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a learning curve. I mean, not to say that you should have a learning curve when you're dealing with ruling a kingdom. It's not exactly like a trial by error type thing. But when you look at her story, like her plot line up until now, the things that she's had to deal with have pretty much toughened her up. I mean, there's the whole, I do not have a gentle heart. Yeah, you do. But which is why people tend to gravitate towards her. But I'm totally messing with you. But no, there's but like I was saying, she, up until now, it has been necessary for kind of emotional toughness to be a key part of everything that she's been doing. So when she is confronted with this, I would imagine that she hears this kind of thing all the time, or if she's starting to hear this thing, she can't automatically just go, okay, take down your father from the cross, because it's a little more complicated than that. But the fact that she did budge kind of leads me as a storyteller to believe that they're trying to make her seem like, all right, she's taking in all this information. She's realizing what she has to do, and now she's going to do it.
Right, but I do think that's a good point that, you, especially at a time of war, you kind of have to harden yourself because there's atrocities on either side, no matter what way you look at it.
Yeah, and you want the people, at the end of the day, they have to fear you in order to follow you.
Ooh.
Oh, that way, don't let Kristen be a ruler.
Wow.
That's what we're finding out.
Rule through fear. Okay, I see how it is.
I mean, that's just how these worlds work.
Oh.
Do these
In
worlds
here.
work that well, though?
I'm not saying that works well. I'm not saying that's how I rule.
Okay.
Just saying
Oh.
the show's rules.
But
So I'm
to
an observer here.
Danny's credit, I gotta say, I think you could argue that she knew some of this was coming, and that was her decision. She's like, I can't rule 7 kingdoms if I can't even rule this one. I've got to figure out how to deal with these problems. And I think you could certainly make a case that this is what she was expecting, that she was expecting the unexpected of what problems do I have to solve? What do I do? And she knew there was a bumpy road ahead.
What I found kind of funny is when she said, you have 212. It was 212, right? You have 212
Yes.
of these, more of these. And she kind of was like, oh boy. What was funny to me is I think you're right. She was expecting this kind of thing, but it almost reminded me of someone, like a superhero trapped in like an office and not knowing how to deal with like all of the work. She's like, really? This is what I
really funny.
It's very much
this is what
like
I have to do for 212 more of these? Damn it.
It's like The Incredibles.
Kind of.
With Mr. Incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Jorah kind of was on that same par of thinking that you just mentioned, because he was just like, really, this is what you want to do. We could have just left.
Yeah, we could have been like going and conquering, and instead we're listening to all like your goats and this and that. It is necessary 100%, but it was just a funny moment when she heard 212.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Seriously?
the nice eye
Show.
roll too.
Yeah, Jorah was like,
You asked for those.
So D's on the chat by the way saying, "Damn, Kristen, about ruling with power."
Ooh, I know.
No, what I'm saying is, like, if she says, hang up all these men, and then she is like, okay, we can take a few down, like, it
know
makes
what
her
you
look
mean.
weak.
Yeah.
So
and
Simfire in the chat saying, "Didn't Joffrey think that fear equals respect?" I don't think he really knew what he was doing per se. I think
No.
he was just cruel.
he was just sadistic.
yeah, he didn't have a creed. He was just going with the flow.
I mean, the way they present her, Mother of Dragons, like, you really don't think they want people to fear her?
Can we also point out how long her title was too? That
Yeah.
title went on for a
And
long
first
I
time.
of her
love it.
name.
I love it. We got a lot of titles,
First of
especially
her.
even between Stannis and the Iron Bank. There was he's the Lord of the Andals and protector of the realm, and he goes, well, Tommen's the Lord. He's the Lord protector.
Dave, that's the kind of introduction I asked for.
Oh, I'm sorry.
First
know.
of her name.
There you
The
go.
first of all
the
right.
greatest,
Expert tap
the greatest tap
dancer.
dancer of 1983.
I mean, first you wanted your like hot dog competition exploits to be shared with the world. And
They can YouTube it.
so let's go ahead and move forward with that to Yara Greyjoy and heading off to the Dreadfort to free Theon. So this is something pretty new, but it makes I feel like they were doing this to make you like her character a lot more.
I didn't know what to think of this scene. Could you guys give me something? I feel like this scene was I was really looking forward to this scene from the season finale of last season.
Yeah.
Where she was like, I'm gonna take the fastest ships and the
Yeah.
best killers on the Iron Islands, and we're gonna go and I'm gonna do this because you won't, Daddy, Balon Greyjoy. And then we get this little kind of scene where they
We're on a rowboat.
It's like,
Yeah.
There's
oh
like
no, there's
10
dogs.
people.
oh dogs, oh
Not that, not that
the
killer dogs aren't bad. It's
I
just
mean-
like this.
The worst part was that they watched him take out the key and unlock the dog door. Like, you have him surrounded by 10 of your men. You can't kill him before he opens up the cages. Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? We all could have stopped him. We could have jumped through the screen before she did anything.
He was looking
Like,
pretty scary with no shirt and all cut up.
What
Yeah,
was
what
From the
was
sex
that
scene?
from?
Okay,
It was
he-
from sex. He's a masochist.
Yeah, I know we
Yeah, I
discussed
don't
it. I know
know.
we were kind of discussing this while we were watching the episode, but did he get scratched up? Is that someone else's blood? Did he kill the girl he was having sex with?
Yeah, I was
What
so
did he...
confused
That
when
was
it
really
happened.
strange.
I was like, why is he? What is this?
I feel like we had a deleted scene where he probably ran to the kennels and killed a few Greyjoys along the way or
Yeah,
something.
he killed
you're-
somebody.
You're asking what to make of the scene. I mean, for my money, it was pretty much a device just to say, well, or not even a device. She needed to realize that
Yes.
Theon isn't Theon, or is he going to turn into Theon? I suppose again. How
Theon,
meta
I need
is
you to
that?
pretend to be Theon.
Oh, that is pretty meta. That's terrible. That's a great way to. That's the best kind of disguise I could ever think of, though.
Yeah.
Brainwashing someone into not thinking that they're them, and then asking them to play themselves. That's.
It's probably going to work, too.
So
You could
Ramsay's
s-
pretty brilliant.
But kind of. That's really brilliant in a sick, twisted way. But yeah,
Yeah.
cheaper than makeup, I suppose.
Whenever Theon was in that bath, I was thinking if Ramsay asked Theon to drown himself in that moment, he probably would. That's what I was thinking. Because at this point, I feel like he can command him to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I guess like for me, I felt like it was 2 points for the whole scene. One was to show just how much he's turned to the point where Ramsay can't control him, and then the other point was just to show, I think, to make the characters to make us as an audience like Yara more, and because she was kind of harsh in a way when we first met her, and it's kind of I think she's less so in the show than she is in the book with Theon in a way, but I feel like it was to. I mean, again, make us sympathize with her and
Yeah.
like her.
I mean, I don't, though. I liked her on the way. I liked her after that speech that you mentioned. But on the way back, she's like, my brother's dead. You know, because they were like, what about your brother? And she's like, my brother's dead. So it's like, you don't ever turn your back on your family. And they
Yara just did.
Exactly.
He
like,
just bit her.
they could have carried him out screaming and crying. Like, you went all that way. You charged through there. Like, really? You're going to come back empty-handed? Like, why?
Her feelings could have been hurt.
I
Her
think.
brother didn't recognize her.
Oh, I think as far as she's concerned, her brother really is dead. He's he's just gone. He's completely gone. And I think I agree with you that I believe that's the main point of this scene. I just felt bad for the Ironborn because those are supposed to be the best killers on the Iron Islands. they didn't put up much of a fight.
Nah.
So if that's the case, then they're in rough shape.
They're referring to the dogs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, dogs. Just don't bring out dogs and they're okay. Simfire is saying Yara's speech was pretty good and the cinematography during it was decent too.
Her speech was really kind of revved up when she was rowing in.
By the way,
I
those
like
were
that.
all like kind of like, I don't know, that was like a strange compliment. It was pretty good, and the cinematography during it was decent. It's just like you're trying to compliment it. It's like, but then it's all like these terms that are.
Nice.
Ish.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I guess it was good.
Man, we're such critics.
How about how
So
easy
sad.
the Dreadfort was to break into? What was up with
Yeah.
that? That's the main castle
They're
of the
good at
Boltons.
torturing people, not at defending
Not
themselves.
for defending themselves.
It's,
Okay.
it's
I
a
see.
place built for torture. That's all it's good at. So with that, let's go ahead and get to what I think everyone is looking forward to from this episode, and the big moment from this episode, which is King's Landing, where we get a scene with Jaime and pissed at Lord Tywin. So basically about everything happening with Tyrion, and Jaime's really on Tyrion's side, and Jaime's just pissed that Tywin's doing this to his own son.
Yeah.
It's so nice to see the bond between them. We've seen Tyrion just have like his father and his sister hate him for so long. That is so nice to see a relative that actually cares about him.
Yeah.
It's a nice turn.
Or anyone care about him.
I
for that
completely.
matter.
I
Well, Shay
completely
cared
agree.
about him.
Oh, don't even bring her
I
up.
mean, I wanna
She
get
is
that.
dead to
She
me.
loved him. She loved him. Tyrion pushed her away, and for good reason. But
Yeah.
Are we
Yeah.
talking
We'll
about the
talk about
trial
that. We'll
right
talk about it in a
now?
moment.
okay,
We'll talk
yeah.
about it in a
What
moment.
are we talking
Yeah,
about?
Right
what
now,
are we
let's keep
doing?
on talking about Jaime and how I agree. It's nice to see someone in the family actually protecting Tyrion, or not think he's protection, but someone who actually caring about him, because usually it's just Tyrion constantly gets shit on by everybody. So it's nice to see that from Jaime and how much Jaime's really trying to change and make an effort to be good.
Are you talking about after the trial?
No,
When-
even before the trial, when he's like talking to Lord Tywin, and he's just like, "How could you do this to your own son? How could you condemn him to death?" And Tywin opening up and saying, "I'm like, wait, let me make sure." I'm like, "Oh, never mind. I'm actually on the
he's-
wrong note." I was
David's
like,
just going right into this trial.
that's mid-
"Yeah,
trial.
I'm sorry." I was like, I mixed up my notes. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. It's
So,
all right.
but before that, let's rewind.
Can we
I
talk
was-
about the small council
Let's
meeting?
talk about the small council
Yeah.
meeting. Tywin meeting with the council with Oberyn, and also we get to see Martell there.
Yeah, Oberyn Martell,
Oberyn
first day
Martell.
on the council. Only one who doesn't stand up when the hand of the king enters is like.
He's so cool.
Simfire was
So
saying,
suave.
oh, by the way, in the previous note, Simfire was saying, Dave, my tone was more upbeat. I don't know. It's just funny when you actually read what the words actually mean. It's just,
Nice.
There is no tone in typing.
Psychologically, you always read text and emails more snarky than they are. They did a study
Yeah.
on it,
Agreed.
apparently.
Agreed.
That's why I always put smiley faces or exclamation marks.
yeah, I do the
Or
same thing.
haha. If you put haha after basically
Everything.
anything, it's okay. You can say
Yeah.
vicious
Right,
things, but
I-
ha ha ha, and you're fine.
I try to do the same thing just so people know. But yeah, sorry, let's get to the small council. So what were you saying?
So we're getting a bunch of word. Varys has a lot of new information to bring on. First of all, the Hound has been sighted. They're talking about the 5 men that they killed, that Arya and him killed over the chicken in the
Yeah.
in the hut, and we find out that they put a bounty on the Hound's head, and 10 should be enough. And Tywin's like, no, 100 gold to kill the Hound. So I think that's gonna lead.
Was
to
it
some...
gold? I thought it was like 10 silver stags.
Oh, was it silver stags? I'm sorry, I wasn't
Oh,
paying
I
attention.
mean, it's
to what
fine.
it
It's
was.
not a big. I don't think it matters that much. It's 10 to 100. That's the
There you
important
go. He
detail.
offers 100 something to kill
Still,
the Hound.
it's like, yeah, why? Why is Tywin putting that much out?
Because he said, "Fuck the king."
yeah,
And also, he's deadly and he knows a lot. I mean,
Okay.
if you think about it,
yeah.
he might not necessarily be that much of a threat to him, but he has enough threats going on as it is. He just wants that out of the question. Kill him good, make sure that he can't say anything, he can't kill anyone. And now that he said "fuck the king,"
What's funny?
Yeah.
What's funny is the Hound said in the next on that he sees Arya as like a walking bag of silver or whatever, and now it's kind of like she could turn him in, and he's basically a walking bag of silver now.
Absolutely. He's got a
Twist.
He's a marked man now.
Yes, they're both.
But,
Yeah,
I think the main thing, I think he mainly wants him dead because he's a deserter. He ran out on the Lannisters in the
Yeah.
middle of a battle.
Sure.
You
So-
can't let that stand. And that's Tywin. He's very firm. He rules with an iron fist.
Absolutely.
But and we find out that they actually now are getting a lot of info about Daenerys and Marine, and this is like a lot of info. So they know now about the Unsullied, the Second Sons, the Third Dragons, and they're actually taking the dragons somewhat seriously, and they're
Yeah.
actually like, acknowledging that these are real.
It's great, except for Cersei, who...
Three baby dragons.
I'm so glad she's not in charge, because
Yeah.
she's
She
just
doesn't care.
clueless. She doesn't care. Oh, whatever. Baby dragons, little girl.
She's just arrogant.
That's
She's so arrogant.
That's exactly how Joffrey would have responded. Like, who cares though?
So
So.
the apple
Yeah.
doesn't
Where she
fall
gets it.
far from the tree.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
But what is he going to do? Get me a quill and paper? Like the dragons are gonna burn that up in seconds for a snack. Like what? The birds aren't gonna make it there with what's this paper going to say?
Yeah.
What's like Tywin's big plan here?
I
What?
suppose they don't know how to handle dragons. I mean, when's the last time a dragon's been around?
Yeah, it's been like hundreds
It's
of
been
years.
hundreds of years, so I guess they don't really know how to deal with that imminent threat because no one has had to for hundreds of years.
Yeah, I mean, even more than that, though. They've got 8,000 Unsullied, too, and we've got the Second Sons. You got the 2 advisors, and again, Cersei, like, oh, well, Barris didn't tell me, doesn't matter. He was old and
old.
trying to defend her own decision, where you got once again, Tywin with reason being
Yeah.
like, no, that was a mistake. That was really dumb.
Yeah. And we also get reminded that Jorah was a spy originally.
Yeah.
Which they haven't mentioned, I don't think, since the first season.
I think they mentioned that in the 3rd season?
Did they?
Last season? I
Okay.
think they mentioned that.
But they brought that back up, which
Yeah.
is something so easy to forget, that he
Right.
was originally sent there to spy on her.
Yeah, and so, but he stopped at this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Um,
But yeah, so that kind of wraps up the scene as Oberyn quips on how the Unsullied are great warriors, but in bed, not so much.
Not so much. And we have Mace Tyrell so happy to please Lord Tywin. He's
Yeah, I like
"Ooh,
how-
I'll go get it, yeah.
Lord Bond saying the small council meeting was great, seeing Mace Tyrell and Oberyn be total opposites. Mace being the brown noser, sitting up nice and proper, and Oberyn kicked back and just being all badass.
He just looked badass. Just
Yeah.
the posture. He's like,
This is
"You,"
great. He just
so-
doesn't even care to be there, too. It's just like, yeah, I'm here.
But you could see the entire time he was really listening, because this is
Oh,
the
yeah.
first small council meeting, and now he's getting all these secrets that Dorne has never heard of. All
Yeah.
this, like, does Dorne know about Daenerys out there? Did they know that before? And just everything. And you could see he was really paying attention to everything that was being said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I just like how he kind of throws it away that people probably aren't going to take him serious like that. Like he's going to do anything with this information because he is so like laid back and whatever. Yeah, I was out last night. These meetings always going to be early. Like he almost comes across as a non-threat to be in those meetings.
Yeah.
Because he acts so carefree like that. But honestly, he is listening to all that stuff, and I'm sure he will do something with that information.
It's definitely a great way to portray that he's a lot smarter than he allows himself to come across. He actually is really smart. But we get him meeting, and then actually speaking on that, we get a meeting with Varys, and him right away recognizing that that Varys had been hiding an accent the whole time is actually from
Lys.
Lys, thank you. Yeah, from Lys. So we also get that apparently Varys kind of nods at that he might be going for the Iron Throne.
Yeah, just like Peter Baelish, he says that whole thing about the absence of desire leaves one free to pursue other things, and then he like looks over at the throne.
But doesn't that mean he desires the throne?
What? That's the implication.
Yeah, wait a second.
Wait a minute, Bari.
Different types of desires.
Yeah, I guess so. Not sins of the flesh, but sins of the iron
Yeah.
throne.
But
I don't know.
I think I prefer the flesh version than the iron.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, what? Yeah. What? That was interesting exchange. I don't fully know what to take from that. Did you guys think that he's just gunning to put himself on the Iron Throne?
I feel weird about the fact that he said anything to this guy he doesn't know. He's so smart socially. It does not make sense to me that he would drop something with that kind of
Show his
implication.
cards, right.
Show his cards that freely when he's played everyone else so well up until now. Why would he just throw his cards on the table to this guy who is clearly very intelligent, clearly sees through him a little bit? That just doesn't sound right to me. I feel like there's something else.
He's
going on.
obviously trying to manipulate Oberyn into thinking something. I don't know, putting an idea in his head, maybe the desire for the throne. I don't know.
It's like a double blind. Like he's
Yeah.
trying to point
Yeah.
attention over here while he's doing something with
It's
his
like
left
what
hand.
we get Peter Baelish doing. He's like, confuse all your friends and your enemies and
Yeah.
everybody, so nobody knows anything.
Varys is confusing us, so I think
Yeah.
he's got us beat
Yeah.
right now.
Varys winner. So let's go ahead and move forward to the trial. So
Dun, dun,
we
dun.
get Tyrion being led off to the trial in chains because he's such a threat without chains on. We saw what he did in the Battle of Blackwater. Can't let that be unleashed.
He is perfect. I'm sorry, he's the other one. He's my favorite character.
Oh
in
yeah,
this show,
Tyrion's amazing. But
He's all right.
Now we're gonna have
Now
He's
let me
so
have-
entitled. Oh, God, no.
yeah, let me just throw out, just say that I hate Tyrion so everyone hates me even more.
Wow.
No, I love Tyrion. I love Tyrion. Don't take that seriously. So, but Tommen, again, with the titles that you're talking about, Tommen saying all of his titles now with the long list of titles as he releases himself.
Excuse me?
He relieved himself on the spot. Look, if you ever read the books, for some reason George R.R. Martin has it so if anyone's scared, they pee themselves. They piss their pants so many times. The more scared you are, you pee your pants like 3 times, 4 times. This is for everyone. I'm sorry. That's just something I noticed when I'm like, why do they're constantly pissing their pants?
There you go.
That's an aside.
It's like the Salad Arsene joke we got earlier.
Yeah.
The brown
Brown
pants.
pants.
Yeah.
So anyway, regardless, sorry for the aside, but regardless, we get so Tommen releases himself from the trial. I was going to say releases himself.
He likes the
Freudian slip.
he likes the crown, but apparently not the throne. He's just easily giving up his powers.
I mean, it's just like that whole thing with Tywin, who said listen to your counselors and all that from the previous episode. He's clearly just listening what Tywin wants. And he's also he might not even be of age in a sense, but I guess he is if he's even able to say that. So he's probably just listening what Tywin wants him to do.
Yeah, I mean, he had that whole speech about, if you're a wise king, you'll listen to the people who actually know what they're talking about. So I'm sure as a young kid, he's just going, yes, dad, or grandpa.
yeah.
Yeah. Really, what's Tommen supposed to do anyway? Is he going to oversee that trial? Like what?
It would be interesting, though,
Oh, yeah?
to see what he would say.
He'd be like, did you murder him? Oh, a kitty.
Joffrey would have
Oh,
overseen it,
there's
and with pleasure.
Oh, yeah.
He would have been the only one overseeing it.
So yeah, Tyrion, and I was just thinking like it's got to be so infuriating to be Tyrion in this situation. I think that's a lot of why like it's so easy to like him is because he's put into situations like this, and you just constantly feel horrible for the things that he has to sit through, and how infuriating it is to listen to all these people. Like the first person who spoke out against him, which was the king's guard,
Sir Meryn Trant.
Sir Meryn Trant, thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, Sir Meryn Trant, who just starts speaking out and without any context. And he's speaking in truth, but without context
Yes.
of what happened. So Tyrion tries to speak out against it, not able to immediately shut down, just has to listen to all these things being spoken about him.
Do you guys feel like this was at all like a mockery of like our judicial system? Because often people are, they're not really assumed to be innocent until proven guilty. I mean, this is often, I feel like, how trials could go.
Yeah, there's so much that you can take. Like you can tell a story, and like Dave was saying, if it's out of context, you can make up any sort of
like
anything you want,
the
any
way
sort of
reality
truth.
TV
Yeah,
is
the court of
edited.
public opinion. Very much.
That is how reality TV is edited,
It is,
absolutely.
I would say that it's less of a commentary on specifically maybe the United States' judicial system and maybe a commentary on justice in general, because if you're getting into the specifics, it's held in such a different way that it's really kind of difficult to make parallels. But the truth about justice in general, be it in the United States or any other country, really is there are 3 sides to every story, yours, mine, and the truth. And taken out of context, anything that anyone says can be manipulated depending on who's in power. It can be manipulated. So I would say it's less of a commentary maybe on specifically the United States judicial system and more about just the concept
General
of
justice.
Yeah, because I mean, here you have Tyrion not even allowed to speak out against anything. He's not allowed to counter an argument. He's not allowed to say anything to like counter what they say. He doesn't have anyone helping him out. He's kind of on his own. So I mean, I don't know. I don't at all put it side by side with the way the American justice system works because it's so different how trials work.
Yeah,
but
does he have any defense at all? Like, is there
mean-
any point where he can speak? Like, if they don't call him to the stand, can he tell his side of the story?
I mean,
at any
apparently
point?
they said that he was allowed to speak at the end if he wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah, and also he could choose his
And he could find witnesses of his own.
but
Oh,
But
yeah.
he wasn't
but
allowed-
everyone left.
Yeah.
Right, he doesn't have any witnesses.
And he
but-
wasn't allowed to talk to anyone before the trial, obviously.
Yeah, because he's in prison, so it's kind of hard to, yeah.
Well, like Jamie said, it's a farce.
Yeah.
It's a farcical trial. It's not really a trial, but we kind of realize that there are other pieces at play, I suppose, when it comes to whether or not he's going to actually kill him, or if he had designs to kill him.
Yeah, definitely. Dizana is saying that this is kind of the truth from only one point of view that we're seeing in this
Yeah.
trial, Cersei's point of view.
Yes, this is all orchestrated by Cersei.
Yeah, this kind of goes back to last week, how we were anticipating she would be manipulating the entire trial, and it seems like she did.
Yeah.
And for some reason, Grandmaster Pycelle. I don't know why, but he's mad at Tyrion for some reason and is speaking out against him. I can't imagine what reason. Why would he possibly dislike Tyrion?
He caught him doing his Maester's aerobics and stuff like that, and threw him in jail. But we do see Grandmaster Pycelle actually finally, and I've been wondering about this for a couple weeks now. He finally brought out the necklace from Dantos.
Yeah.
Because they had a very deliberate scene when Sansa made it to Littlefinger's ship of Littlefinger pushing the necklace over the boat and it falling onto Dantos. And they had a very deliberate shot of it. And then it kind of disappeared for 2 or 3 weeks. And I was really wondering if it was going to show up again. And I'm glad that they finally had it reemerge. And they did, in fact, discover Dantos' body and this necklace and the poison. And I thought that was going to be more implicating Sansa to it, but I guess it's implicating both of them now because they're married.
Well, if you watch very closely in the scene where he's murdered, you can figure out who did it. If you look very, very closely.
Well, I think they explained last week who did it.
Yeah, they explained
They
it.
They did. Yeah.
I'm like trying to avoid because I know that I could. I mean, I have not read the books. I don't know the spoilers. All I know is what I've actually watched.
I gotcha.
If you count the number when you're watching that episode, at some point one of those disappears. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, we actually
we discussed that
in
Queen of Thorns had played with her necklace and kind of.
Yeah, and when it happened, Sarah and Kristen who hadn't read the books were like, wait, we need to rewind to see what happened. They actually rewound it and caught that without having read anything. So that was something that you could watch and see. And then I agree, they kind of explained that last week too.
Yeah, but I'm just glad that King's Landing knows about Dantos and this necklace now.
Yeah, me too.
I thought he was just going to be out there floating with Gendry somewhere, like out in the middle of the ocean.
I am glad they made a point of that too. They actually had that scene for a reason.
Where is Gendry?
Yeah, that's what
I
I'm
don't know.
saying.
Where is Gendry? That's a great point. Like, where did he go? Like, it seemed like made it ask like he's going to be really important, and now he's just kind of gone from the face of the earth.
And we see on the Previously On, I think every single clip was pretty much Tyrion saying something in a previous season about threatening the king. And I feel like every single Previously On was what each person that got called to the stand was talking about.
Yeah, so
word for word, like he's going to kill the king, and kings are dropping like flies these days.
Sorry.
No, go right ahead.
I'm kind of wondering what people are thinking about when Varys came up to speak against Tyrion, and if anyone was expecting that for Varys to actually be one who would. I mean, I guess like we found out in the previous season when he wanted Varys on his side, and we found out in the previous week. But I'm wondering if like Varys and especially Shay, if people were seeing that coming.
I just felt like Varys was doing it because he had to keep up appearances, and obviously all those people were doing the same thing. And Shay, it's like at first I wanted to think that she was like forced to do this, but after thinking about it and after listening to her, I think this is just like her revenge on him.
That broke my heart.
I think it broke his too.
He snaps, and kind of a callback earlier to when they're discussing desire and what it does to people and what it does to countries. That moment he snaps, and it's over her really, because he's taken it for so many years, and the final straw that kind of broke him was the person that he loved. Completely turning her back on him after he was really desperately trying to save her and do what was best for her. And so when it comes to what desires will do to men and countries, well, there's a perfect example, so kind of a little tie-in.
Yeah.
When she showed up, did you think she was going to say something to kind of help him? Because that's...
My naive self totally did.
You're Shay, too.
Nope.
I was like scared for her. I was like, oh no, she's going to say something to defend him, and then she's going to die, but that never happened.
So, by the way, before I talk about that whole thing, I do want to point out, I thought it was great that Marcella is so bored during the trial.
Wait, Marcella?
Marjorie? Sorry, Marjorie. I'm sorry.
Marcella's back. All right.
Marjorie, yeah. I'm sorry. People are going to be mad at me for saying that. Marjorie, that she was so bored. I thought that was great. Or she seemed so...
Do you think she looked bored? I thought her and Loras kind of were like, what is happening?
I don't know. I thought it looked like she was just... I don't know.
No, I didn't think she was bored. I thought she was like, obviously this isn't true, and this is the family that I'm marrying into, and this is how something would go, and they're obviously trying to convince everyone to kill their own brother is on trial in front of all these people who don't matter. So it's like, to me, I think she was just kind of ashamed for them.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think you're right.
Especially because it was last week when her grandma? Mom?
Yeah,
Lady Olenna, grandma. Yes,
Grandmother.
Grandma said, it was me pretty much
So she knows.
And so she knows, and so she's watching this, and she's like, wow, this is not how
That's
it
a good
actually
point.
went. Like, she's the only one there who really knows what happened.
Yeah.
Or so we all think.
But I thought her reactions were great,
Yeah.
regardless. So, yeah, and then we get the recess where now this is the part where Jaime's pissed off at Lord Tywin.
Wait, can I mention something more about Shay?
I was going to talk about
Oh, we're
Shay
gonna
right
talk
after
about
that,
Shay?
but yeah,
All right,
yeah.
let's go.
So,
Do your thing.
because there's the recess where we get the fact that, because this is going to play into Shay and what happens with that, but that Jaime agrees that if Tywin will let Tyrion live, he'll take over Castle Rock, he'll leave his vows and all of that. And then sounds like this is what Tywin's been planning all along, which
Yeah.
is to send
Yeah.
Tyrion to the wall.
He's like, great, we're going to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that he wanted to send Tyrion to the wall as much as he wanted Jaime to be his heir. I think that's exactly what he wanted to hear. Because as soon as he was like, "Yeah, okay, whatever with that son," yes.
It sounds like he was ready for it, though. He's just ready to go, like, right away. Okay, well, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, he had it all planned out, and then Jaime just played right into his hands, and it was like Jaime you
Yeah.
just saw that look on Nikolai's face where he's just like,
Yeah.
oh God, my dad's so smart, and I'm so
played
stupid. What am I doing?
It's like, oh, hey, I've decided we're going on a road trip, and someone going, oh, great, here's your suitcase, we're going.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything that you were prepared to
Yeah.
pack. It's like, what? Obviously, you knew. Either you knew or you planned something like this. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
so
Yeah.
So Jaime though, so Tyrion knows now. Jaime conveys this info to Tyrion. So Tyrion now knows if he confesses to be guilty, that he will live. Period. He's gonna get to live and go to the wall. Even though Tyrion doesn't totally trust his father and Tywin, he still finds out that that's possibly an option on the table. And then we come to Shay.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I was totally in that moment like, yeah, Jon Snow's gonna have another bromance. That's gonna be awesome.
were you guys picturing Tyrion up at the wall?
I was like, he's gonna be like commanding stuff, and everyone's gonna be listening to him, and maybe now they have a chance at the wall, and that's where we need the protection.
What
So
do you
I
think
was
his
like,
role at the
yay.
wall would be? I feel like he wouldn't be.
I feel like
he wouldn't
he'd
do
have
good
to,
in the yard with
That's
the
a
sword.
good point. I feel like he'd definitely have to earn it because he would be. Now he wouldn't have any protection saying like I'm royal or whatever. Then he really just is a dwarf. So I think it would take time. But obviously, I just saw that. You know, I know his abilities. We all know what he's capable of. So I just saw him like prevailing and being like someone needed and necessary at the wall.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
But didn't happen.
Never mind.
So I thought this was this
Dream
is
crusher.
There you go.
so this is kind of a thing, and I talked before how all of Shay's scenes were different in this show than the book, and this is kind of what it was all leading up to. Because in the show, you never get Shay. You never get Tyrion spiting Shay like he did in the show, in the books, and Shay never comes across as being. You never are really certain if Shay's actually in love with Tyrion or not in the book, and you never even get this statement of Tyrion trying to send Shay off. That doesn't happen in the book either. So
Yeah.
when she actually says this, your real thought and instinct is, wow, she is a lying whore from the book. And now here they've given this completely different motive to make you sympathize with her. So it's just, I think it's safe to reveal that info at this point because that's why they did that.
Of course.
There you
So that's why it is different how they built up Shay's character in the show to make you sympathize and be like, okay, well, this is why she has
they
this
are
motivation.
they were in
Right.
love. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. But just the fact that Shay's there is my question.
Yeah.
The last we saw, Bronn had sent her off, told Tyrion that she was gone.
I was like, it's all good,
Right.
bro. She's gone. Don't worry.
So we have Shay all of a sudden there, and Bronn is not there. Is there something? I'm genuinely asking. Like,
Yeah,
do we think that Bronn betrayed Tyrion? Like, that's what's going through my mind. Did that happen?
I don't think Bronn betrayed him. I think he wasn't allowed to be around Tyrion because they know he was faithful to him, as like they previously had stated. He wasn't allowed to see him. But I think that Shay has obviously always played by her own rules. So if she was on that ship for a mile, she probably jumped off and swam back and was planning this revenge, you know? And I don't know, all she'd have to do is go to Cersei. I mean, it seemed like Cersei kind of knew. They had that angle on her where she was just like smiling and just like so happy that she was getting what she wanted out of this trial. And it's as if like she kind of had a part in Shay coming back, so it seemed to me. So
Kind of obscure reference, but all I was thinking during that entire scene was she reminded me of Mama from Dread which is a movie she was in.
Ah,
And I was
yes.
like, oh my god, it's Mama from Dread.
Take some slow-mo.
Yeah.
That was
glad
an
you got that
awesome
reference.
movie, by the
I
way.
love Dread. It's such a great movie. But Lord, anyways, Dizana on the chat saying, kind of agreeing with your opinion, Kristen, saying Bronn is too loyal to Tyrion, but doesn't mean that Shay stayed on the boat. And so that idea that maybe Shay got to the boat but didn't stay, and Lord Bond is saying Bronn would do anything for the right price, though. Even told Tyrion he would kill a baby for the right price.
He is a sellsword.
True.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
And I felt like I saw Cersei just kind of being a puppet master that whole trial. Like I feel like she was just sitting back and she was like, yes, they're saying everything I want them to say. Perfect. Like that's the impression that I got from it. She
Having
was
the
just
time of her life.
She was so happy with herself.
That look
It
was just like, oh, checkmate.
Yeah.
But I
And-
didn't think she was surprised at all by Shay. That's why I feel like maybe she had a hand in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe. All I know is that the look on his face when she walked in destroyed me. I'm like sitting there with my little notepad, like, trying not to cry because I don't know you guys that well. But it was just devastating. That was awful.
So what you're saying is by next week, though, the tears will be flowing.
Tears
because
will
now
be
you'll know
flowing.
it's that much
If
better.
he goes down, yes. If Tyrion goes down, you will see waterworks for me like no one's seen for me in a long time. I
Oh my
will not
gosh.
stand for that.
I think you're tearing up right now.
That's just the
Tyrion,
heat in here.
Tyrion dies and Shay runs over and she's like, I'm sorry. And Autumn just.
Oh no, I'll just yell.
Burst through the TV.
God, Kyle, stop with the spoilers.
Oh, sorry,
man.
spoilers. I'm just writing my fan fiction
Just
right
on
here.
just on a performance level, I'm a really big fan of Peter Dinklage in general. I think he's wonderful, and I think that he's incredibly subtle and nuanced. And there were a few moments in that entire scene where I was just like,
He did a fantastic job acting.
When he asked her at the end, he's like, please don't. That's when I almost.
Yeah,
That's when I almost lost a little
Yeah.
bit. But did he just win the Emmy right there?
I think so. That was fantastic acting in that
speech.
whole scene. Well, the entire scene too. Like just the way that he was sitting there taking everything, you can just read what he's feeling from it. And yeah, Peter Dinklage did a fantastic job. But yeah, that speech was great. I love that speech.
he
you go.
broke. He finally broke. He
It's
was
what
going
everyone's
to.
been
Yeah.
thinking too. Everyone's been thinking this, not just him. All the viewers have been thinking this.
Oh,
Yeah, so it was kind of like any way we could get justice was in his words right then and there.
it was good. He's just like,
Yeah.
I wish I had poison to kill you all.
Yeah.
You should all be
I
thanking
saved-
me. And
I'll
instead,
confess, I saved you, and I saved all of you worthless
And I'm
people.
on trial for
There you
something
go.
a lot worse.
I should have let
much
you
more
die.
monstrous. I'm on trial for
Yes.
being a dwarf.
do
and
you
that's
think
what I've
that's what it
always
all
been.
is?
Yeah, I don't.
Is it all because he's different?
I mean, that's what exactly how he feels.
Yeah.
Though that's maybe not why everybody else looks at him that way, but I don't know. That's obviously, it's like that one thing when you look in the mirror that you want to change about yourself. You kind of will probably blame everything that doesn't work out in your life on that one detail that you see when you look in the mirror. And I think that's kind of what he's doing here. Maybe it's not so much that he's a dwarf, but that's how he sees himself. And
That being said, he's not delusional. I mean, we've known from season 1 that his father hates him, and it's
Yeah.
not because he lacks the talent and wit, where if he were a normal person, quote unquote, in this world, that he would have been made a fine king.
Yeah, well, I mean, beyond that too is the fact that
mom died.
His mom died when he came out, so that's
Yeah.
a lot of it for Tywin too. That's big part of it too. But yeah, I just love that his whole thing about I'm guilty of being a dwarf and I've been on trial my entire life, and I just love that that part of his speech. That was great, and
Yeah.
it seems like that is a lot of what his issues have stemmed from constantly with people disliking him, making fun of him, laughing at him. Various things like we saw during Joffrey's wedding, the mocking of him because of him being a dwarf and the way that all those different riders came out as dwarfs just to mock him. So, yeah, it just seems like that's constantly something he's had to deal with in his life.
And that's what it is. I mean, dwarves in this world pretty much are just comic relief.
that's what I was thinking. It's kind of sad. I don't know how much of that speech he really had. I mean, I'm sure a lot of that was pure passion about just how he felt being a dwarf in general in this world and in our world, as well.
Well, what's wonderful is that, I mean, look at Peter Dinklage being the most badass person in the entire
Yeah.
world. So, I mean, at the end of the day, regardless of the social connotations, be it in this world or that world, you're watching an incredible performer with a very powerful performance finally kind of give it to people who really deserve it. So it was kind of a hurrah moment. I'm terrified for next week because I have no idea. 'Cause I don't know. It's one of those things. This show, you just don't know. They would kill him if they'll kill him if they need to, and I will just not be okay if that.
Yeah, that's what's great about the show is you really don't know. But speaking on that too, since he demands trial by combat. Who do you guys think is going to be his champion? Do you think it's going to be Bronn? Do you think it's going to be some other character? What do you think?
Well, are you saying that he's going to be able to name someone to fight for him?
Well, that's how we saw it work at the Ares.
Yeah,
so
is that the only time we've seen trial by combat in the show?
I think so. I think it was at the Ares and that was it.
Yeah, and I have a question to as just viewers. Did you, when he said trial by combat, were you like, huh, or did you remember?
I remembered.
I remembered, but I kind of felt like the crowd with how they heard it and the reaction. I feel like everyone was shocked, and I mean, I was kind of as well. But it's like, is he going to nominate someone? Are they going to allow him to do that? I guess. I don't know. Or would they make him fight for himself? Because I obviously feel like he's going to probably say a name, but I feel like Jaime would step forward and fight for him.
Well, I'll say like in the previous episode, the Bronn said he would do it.
Yeah.
And then he was able to name Bronn after Bronn said he would do it for him.
I think it was. I think what happens is you declare trial by combat. The prosecuting team, or the prosecuting, like Queen Cersei, I believe, because she's the one bringing the charges, I think she declares a champion first. And then I think Tyrion can either say, I'll fight, or he can declare a champion of his own. Right.
Well,
I think
then
that's
Cersei could, I guess.
What if they both want Jaime to
I was
fight
about to say,
Jaime?
she could definitely say Jaime, and then.
But come on, do you really want Jaime as your champion? The dude's got one hand, right?
Of course, I
But
mean.
in that situation, if Jaime was fighting somebody who was representing Tyrion, it's like he doesn't want his brother to die. So in that case, is he just going to lay his neck on the line and die for his brother? Or what's going to happen?
Sinfire on the chat, by the way, pointing out the Hound and Barrack had a trial by combat as well. I'm not sure if it worked the same way as the normal laws, but they did have that in the previous episodes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But so who do you guys think then, given there's two champions, who do you think we might see as the champions?
Jaime for sure is one of them.
I think so. I mean, just from a story standpoint, that would make it very interesting and make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I honestly hope so. I mean, I don't obviously want Jaime to die, but I just feel like if it's someone we don't know, and even Bronn we haven't seen lately, so we might not feel as like the scene or the battle is so important if it's not a character we really care about who's fighting. So I definitely hope that Jaime's one of them, and I feel like he will be.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Lord Bond on the chat saying left-handed Jaime, no way. Two-handed Jaime, definitely. So yeah.
That's fair. I mean, that's the only
Yeah.
reason I'm not saying, like, I'd bet all my money on Jaime being one, because the people who would nominate him, the thing is, because he only has his left hand now, who would be dumb enough to say, like, yeah, the person who lost their fighting hand, that's the person I want to. Like,
That's a good point.
As a story device, it'd be awesome, but at the same time, who would do that?
Yeah.
So if Tyrion loses the trial by combat, his chance of joining the Night's Watch is gone completely, right?
That's
Unless, sorry, all I'm thinking of, the only way it would work is if Tyrion asked him to do it, because then Cersei would have to deal with either losing
Or nominating someone he could beat.
Well, that's the thing, is she would have to choose between Jaime or
Right.
Tyrion if that were the case.
Yeah.
Because if he said, oh, Jaime has to fight for me, then she'd have to watch either the person that she loves die that way.
Yeah, or she'd nominate
so
someone.
that could work.
Well, I just feel like, why are we watching Jaime get to, like, basically learn how to fight with his left hand? Like, they've been focusing on that so much. We keep seeing him standing by in, like, armor, like, as if he's prepared to fight. I just feel like they've been focusing on it so much, him learning his skills again as fighting, that it's, like, maybe preparation for something.
Yeah, but I guess we'll find out
Well,
hopefully
you
next
guys are not
episode.
saying
I know, it's like,
anything.
da, da, da.
But I love that point that you brought up about if he nominates Jaime, it's
Well,
like...
then Cersei loses,
Yeah.
no matter what. Because either she loses the trial or she loses the love of her life, I suppose.
Right.
Oh, and to answer your question, by the way, because this was something that we found out during the Eerie about what happens if his champion loses, that means he's guilty. So that's what it is. If his champion loses, he's guilty. If his champion wins, he's innocent.
Okay.
So and now that he's not at this point too, as far as going to the wall, that would be if he confessed his. I don't know. They never really said it because then
he
if
would
he's
have had to
guilty, he was guilty anyway. So yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll find out with that.
Yeah, I have blah 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 blah. I have to assume that if you lose the combat by trial, that you have no other choice. It's death.
Right, because
Yeah.
then maybe there's no redeeming factor, whereas if you confess, there's some redeeming factor to it, I guess.
so.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess
Oh, Westeros
we will
law.
find out. So with that said, though, that'll wrap up this episode. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us this week. And once again, I'm Dave Klein. You can find me on Twitter at @TheDaveKlein. That is Klein.
And I am Autumn Chiklis. You can find me on Twitter at Autumn Chiklis.
I'm Kristen Snyder. You can follow me at Cinematic Escape, or you can check out my blog, Cinematic Escape.
And I'm Kyle Maddock. You can find me on Twitter at MadCanard, like the duck.
All right, and we will see you guys next week. Later.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.